Okay, so here we are. We're going to move on to the next step. It's been 3 days, and the first layer that we put on is pretty dry to the touch, so we can add more to it. The next thing I want to do here is I want to do a small critique of where am I at. And if you can see the picture compared to here, there are differences in the colors, but that may be okay. It doesn't have to be identical. It just needs to be, I don't know, reflect what you want it to reflect. So it does have some really great feel to it. It all comes swooping down and swooping down. Obviously needs to have a little bit more clouds in here. And this part right down in here, it sort of has a bank of clouds that is going over this particular mountain here. And so I'm probably going to end up, and actually slightly over this. So when I come back in with the sky part, I'm going to probably add some down into these mountains. The mountains have a little hint of interest to them, and so that's a good start. And the land looks like it's coming down in most of the right spots. So I'm feeling pretty good about the placement. Now, I'm not sure if I have little training wheels I come up with because I want to make sure my distortion isn't too great. Somewhere along the line, I came up with an idea to take the photograph itself, and the picture, reference picture is 8 by 10. This is 16 by 20, so that's 4 8 by 10s. I go into Photoshop, and I take that picture, and I find the edges, find the little thing to click on, find the edges. Then I put high contrast on here. So I can put it right over the top. And why do I want to do that? Well, partly because I want to see if I'm like horribly off on something. And it looks like it's pretty good for that one. This is actually, I think, this guy up here. Now I have 1/4 of an inch off for my allowances. And let's see, is that, yeah, that's right. So I think it's going okay. I have this little swoop and this little swoop up here. By doing that method, you don't get every single line. But it's quick, it's down, it's dirty, and it helps me. So most of the activity is in the right spots. Yay. And then finally, the last piece of land here goes right about here. And it looks pretty darn good. I mean, compared to, it's all in the right spot. So I'm feeling good about that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually finish out either land or sky. And I think I'm going to start out with the land. The sky has got a lot of really good stuff going on. And what happens is you're going to be taking, like if I'm looking at color-wise, it doesn't have to be the same color, but it should be the same value. It should have the same spark. So like, as you can see, I have a lot of lighter colors that need to go into this land on this orangey looking grass. And so I'm going to take and finish these mountains off first, farthest away from where I am in the real world, and move it towards me. So I can finish off these mountains. And there's a tree line, and it's just teeny weeny, but I like putting it in because it sort of gives a break to those mountains. And then I'm going to save the sky for later. So I'm going to mix some colors, and that's the next thing I'm going to do. But I'm going to finish the land out first, and if I have time, I'll finish the sky out second. And then it should be pretty close to done. Then if there's any kind of final touches the next day, it should be very minimal. Put a little bit there, and maybe a little bit back here, and it's awfully bright still. So I'm going to really add some more white to it. I can even pull some off if I want to, but I think I'm just going to leave it. And these are definitely redder over here. Essentially, you're just kind of you're mixing it on the side, and then you put it on here, and again, you kind of end up with more than one color. And I just go back and forth until it seems like it'll be okay. Now you can see down here, I have a little bit of trees down here, and you know, I can add stuff to it if I need to. There's sort of a little hill over here for some reason, and then way over here it starts these trees. Now it just needs to be the essence of the trees. See what I mean? So touch, 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 and I'm going to go and follow my horizon line. And so why do we touch, touch, touch? Well, if you leave a little spark of each color, you know, you don't control that very much. But when you leave a little spark of the colors, they have a tendency of looking a little more realistic. And so even though I've got a main color, all the colors that make that main color up can have little sparks. And I'm more looking at the top of the trees than I am at the bottom of the trees right now, because I'm going to come in with something beneath them. So and I don't have to stick with, I mean, they look really tiny on the photograph. They look super tiny. And so I don't have to be leaving them that tiny. I can add something, you know, here and there if I want to, because I have a license. And you have a license. So that's going to go that way. And, you know, you can just put in I'm just going to add in a couple extras here and there just to give it a feel. I don't want it to go, you know, I want to have a little, everything is sort of gets it down to being continuity. So now I can take my, I'll take a small brush here, and I'm going to try to get a little bit, I always have to have a little rag. So I'm going to try to get a little bit of the tap these a little bit so that they have a little bit more realism. Instead of just looking completely like blobs, they can have a little bit more realism. And this was going to be a hill, but I'm just going to make it into a trees. And again, you know, it's sort of the tops of them that matter the most. So I'm just going to hit that. Around these parts, the trees have a tendency of growing by each other, sort of, because of water. So they grow in lines a lot of times. Okay. Okay, now they're all the same darkness, so that isn't terribly realistic. So I'm just gonna come and pull up. I'm gonna see if I can get it pulled off a little at the bottom. Now it didn't. Yeah, it didn't really like me doing that, so I'm just gonna take my finger and go off that way. I don't know, just peeled a little something off here. That's a warning. Just touching the bottom and kind of rolling it a little bit. Let's see here. Let me take a little stiffer brush. There we go. Okay. Get my character. These trees, you know, they don't need to be obnoxious. But they do need a little bit of character in there. If I pull some of this paint off now, it looks farther back to me, and then that's good, but it still needs to have that little flip character. Especially this top here. And if I kind of finish it off as I go down into the painting, well, I'll tell you what, when the bottom part is kind of dry and the top part is kind of dry a little bit, then I have some flexibility in terms of getting some of that character, you know, because I'm butting up to something that's a little drier. If everything gets wet, then it all mixes together more. Now, way back here, I can afford to pull some of this off. And why? Because I'm going to be putting this cloud over. And the farther back you go, the lighter it can be. Now I can go back in with the lighter blue and stick it over the top of that. I could easily do that too. But I don't know if I need to do that. So I'm going to try. Now if this brush starts getting a little too saturated with the color, then I have to clean it off or get a different brush, because it's still kind of a dark color. And let's see. And then you have to look at your hand before you scratch your eye. Because otherwise you end up with paint all over your eye. Nobody needs that kind of trouble. Okay. Okay. Now, you may be saying to yourself, why are you going with this dark here? I ask myself. Just keep going. Don't get too hung up, you know, because I'm going to come back in with a yellow underneath here. So I need it to be I just need it to be believable. And this guy's getting out of control, so I'm going to go with a similar one. Come from the top, pull some of this guy out. And so here's one thing about trees is usually at the top it's lighter looking than if, you know, if from a distance it's lighter looking if you pull some off the top. And I don't know if that's just because there's you know, leaves that are less in number at the top or what, I don't know, but it pays to do that. And I don't know if this single color, you know, I don't know if it translated quite the way I'd hoped it would. So I could come in there and pop it with another color if I want to. I think the biggest concern I have is I don't want to repaint the entire thing. So I have to be somewhat judicious. I'm playing with it for a little while here just to make sure it's okay. Let's pull some off the bottom. You put that yellow in there and then you don't have to worry about that. It's going to be a light yellow. And kind of come this way and, you know, mess with it just a little bit. I think I can get away with it there. Okay, so I could also, if I can get it to work, come down off this hill very carefully and hit that light color right into that tree line. Now see, I wasn't careful enough. There we go. Okay. And pull a little off, pull a little off. A little less paint over here. Okay. So let's see the next step, and this is going to look a little bit different too when I get that cloud. It's going to cover up some of this way back here. All right. I'll stick a few somethings over here just so it doesn't get too out of whack. You know, you want to have some balance, I think. Come back in with a little lighter green and hit the tops of these. Better. Why am I doing that? Well, you know, it's bugging me that it was so dark, and this gives us an opportunity to think that the light's coming on it. So it's there, but it'll go better. It'll go with. You know, I have a big thing where I just like I'm one of those people that likes to do the go with. You know, I get a lot of people have all sorts of notions, and I think the best thing to do is listen to all the notions and then come up with what you do. But you know, a lot of people, not a lot, but I mean, I've heard people say, you know, all sorts of things about yeah, like also, what am I saying? All sorts of things about whether you have to worry about decor. I talk about this all the time. You know, decor is, the main part of decor is color. Color is just color. Let me say that. And if you can make it so that, you know, if the painting itself is something that people would enjoy having up on their wall, you're going to probably have to consider something about the decor. Because that's, you know, not everybody fancies their house up or anything, but if they do, the colors that they have are the same colors you're putting on here, except for there's some that are lighter. And anything in your horizon that's a little lighter, you know, if it matches up, that'll be where you match up with wall paint the best, because it's usually a muted color, and it's a lighter color. And that's usually what people put on their walls. So that looks a little bit nicer here. It looks a little friendlier. You know, I like to paint things that people will just relax and enjoy and feel happy when they have that up on their wall. and when the light hits it just right, they're going to just be so happy. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for happy quality of life, and I think that was much better. Okay, so now I can go take a break, and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm been messing around with my palettes a little bit, my mixing palettes, because the last session I didn't really like mixing the paints on the back side of a palette paper, which is what I was doing. And so I went back to my glass palette, but as you can see, there's a little bit of a glare, so I am just putting a little tape over that. Okay, so what have I done so far? I've taken all of the sticks that I've used so far, and there's even more. The blue ones are over here. This line over here, I didn't use those sticks yet, so I'm just putting them off to the side because I'm not sure I'll be using them, but I don't want to put them away yet. All these other ones have been used except for these 5. I'm pretty sure I'll be using these 5. So I'm setting this up, and here's what I do. I just take my stick, which is a little dirty, and still dirty, and then I'm going to go just rub it around like this to make a spot. Now, some of these paints I'm going to need more than just that, but what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I have a little spot for every color I've used so that I can tint things, or I could add a little bit so that you have that sense of everything has every color. And I want it to be ready because it's a lot easier to keep your flow going if you can do that. Get them ready. Now, there's not a lot of paint here in any of these spots, so if you need more, you're going to have to just take and rub that. So I just leave every color by its respective color. Now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to take the farthest back to the mountains there and try to come up with that color. So let's see, maybe I take something like this and something like this and see how that works. So you see how I do that? I can take one and take a second one and mix them together to get a better picture. Now I just go over to my I want it to be globby, and I'm going to sort of start right here in the middle, and I'm going to just start tapping it in. Now keep going that route. For whatever reason, this far away line tends to be very bright on all the wherever I look from my house, where it's going to hit like the tree line or whatever, it looks a little bit bright compared to the other light colors. I don't know why that is. Even as you come forward, this little strip is bright, so I just go with the flow, and I'm just putting it in. This little part here is a little chunky, but it doesn't have to be like super smooth. It can be chunky because that's kind of what it is in real life anyway. And now I'm butting it up against the bottom of these trees a little bit and making it go all the way, oops, towards the end here. Now it doesn't have to be super thick at the very edges. There's a little hint of it there. Well, and part of the reason for that is the same thing as everything else. If it gets too thick at the edges here, then it just takes you right out of the picture. So now I kind of come back this way. And up by these trees here, I don't you know, it doesn't have to be exactly straight line. You can go up a little bit into the tree line. Oops, that's a little too high up. So that it gives it sort of this feeling that the grasses go in between the trees. You know, it's not a very powerful statement, but it's a little statement. And that makes these trees look like they're a little more variable in there. So some of the trees are farther back, some of the trees are closer up, and it gives it just a little bit of a different feel. So I'm just getting this line, and then I'm going to just kind of take a look at it and make sure it's not crazy or something. This guy here got a little weak. All right, now I'm going to come in, and I'm going to come in with, looks like it looks like it has a little bit of green in it. So I wonder if I just take this and bring it up here and hit this little green here. Oh, maybe a little more. Oh, you can't see that. Okay, so let's just bring it down here. So there's this green here, which is kind of a glazy color. It's a little more transparent, and I need something with a little bit of this maybe. And maybe a little U. And maybe a little U. Okay. Now we're going to take this guy and hit a little bit broader swath here. Now remember, this colors that we have down here make for a good backdrop for these others. So if you don't hit exactly all the spots, it's still fine, because it just makes it look like the colors are duller, so they almost looks like, you know, it's got a little play of shadows. I'll go a little bit farther here. And I'm going to bring this in here. Now this guy's a little spindly. In these far away parts of the land, it's actually, by my house, it's, you know, probably even, I don't know, a couple miles away, maybe even. So the back colors are actually just look like lines in a lot of ways. Okay, so I'm going to take my other this is a little bit better knife to use, I think, and I'm going to make just a little bit more of this. Now, part of there's a little bit of this orange color right in there. I don't know. If you look at the painting and you try to get those colors in the right spots, in the right thickness, then that will play a little bit better. It'll be more realistic. Even though you're just using a photograph, it'll still be more realistic than if you just make it all up. Okay, kind of like that, a little orangey. Some of it is a little more orangey. Now, what you're going to notice is that this color is a little bit brighter than what color we added to the mountains. And that's exactly how we want it to go. So, and as you come closer, you're going to be bringing this paint down just a little bit. because eventually here it's going to show up as grass, but these lines in the back. Okay, so I'm going to just bring this up a little bit into that pinky. Okay, and now I'm going to go and hit this with a little more green. And just kind of set that front part of that grasses. That's just sort of a little more of green. Maybe green in this orange. It's kind of nice. Alright, so I'm going to okay, so I added this kind of reddish orange here, just to kind of put it in with the greens, not blend it too much, just kind of let them be side by. That red and that green will stand out because, well, it's like a reddish orange, but the parts of it that are green and against the reddish color is going to make that green actually stand out more, probably. We all hope. Okay, so then I'm going to bring some over here. Now, some of this, okay, so as I'm moving over, I have to be careful I don't, skimp in the middle, because sometimes that's where it's easy to skimp. If your eyes are kind of trying to see this picture, your eyes do kind of, I don't know, the vision in each eye crosses over, and so sometimes I think it gets a little bit, I don't know, it misses a spot for some reason. So somewhere over here, it's still a little more pinkish inside of this green and orange. So I have this dull pink, and I'm putting that in. Plus, now it sort of comes forward in a little bit in this little spot. Now you notice I'm not covering everything up. I'm just letting those little dots work together. So if I need more, I just go like that. Simple Simon Metapymen. Okay. Now, this down here is, it's kind of a mix of, let's see, what is that? Let's try a little of this together with this. Okay, so I'm kind of making, sometimes I'm not sure even how to say it. You're doing stuff and words kind of escape you, but so I'm just kind of making trying to just match the colors and match the amount of space, and still keep it from being too overworked if you can. All right. So somewhere in over here, we're gonna just fill that in just a little bit. And if you do a decent enough job, you won't have to do a whole lot of manipulating at the end of putting your paint down. Okay, so then we're going to go back to this. Maybe I'll just add in a little pink to it. Oh. Okay, so now I'm kind of putting this pinkish, little bit pinkish color on here. Did I put it in there? Okay, so I'm kind of going back and forth, not covering up what I just put on there, but kind of filling in Yeah, let me see if I... So it has a little variation. Might need just a little bit of the light. Just put in a little light. That's not too bad. Okay, so again, I have to keep track of where my colors are when I'm putting these mixed colors in. So I have a darker version. Junk on there. I have a darker version and a lighter version of paint mixing together as I come closer. And this one comes up a little, and even if I just touch it down into the next, it's sort of just building it. Now if I want to come back up a little bit with the same color, let's mix this. What it looks like is a whole bunch of these crazy weeds, which is, you know, has a lot of weeds in those fields sometimes. They're not fields that they use for you know, hay or anything. They're not farming these fields. They just have, you know, kind of natural grasses and weeds in there. So if you just put hints of this color up into this farther field, it will play. They'll play better together, I think. All right, so and a little bit more right where that crossover part is here. And if you leave a little bit, if you don't smash it down too much, it actually looks a little more vibrant when you're using the brush. And that's good as you come forward. That's really good. Okay. Let's see, I have a kind of dark green in there. Let's take this green and put it up there. Let's mix these two maybe. And I'm going to mix it up with this brown in here. Okay, so somewhere in here they've got some different kind of, I don't need so much. Maybe I'll mix in some of this lighter, just so it isn't so, it's very bright or dark. And I'm going to stick a little bit of that in here, and up in here a little bit, and hit that. Now I have try some of this new green that I haven't used, and maybe add a little bit of this darker. This has a lot of blue in it, so it'll look farther away, and it should have a little bit of you know what, I'm gonna go on the wild side and add a little of this bright green. Now see, these trees have green in them, but in the back here, but they're really dark because they're far away, and I might be adjusting them anyway, but this bright green is a green that you would want to use as it's coming forward to you. Okay. And it kind of it must be on a fence line or something, because it just sort of cuts across the field like that. I'm going to take a little bit of this and place it every now and then right where it shows that this line of, I just say weeds. I'm pretty sure they're weeds. Bushes, there's a lot of, like if you're going like you're real close to the fence line, you can see maybe rose bushes, wild rose bushes or something like that. So they cut across. On this field it's not quite so much, but I'm just gonna use a little artistic license and just, you know, keep that going a little bit. And part of the reason for that is that I'm not going to be putting in like posts or anything and for the fence line or anything like that, because they're far away, and why would I want to spend all that time doing that? So I'm going to take and now this is sort of, you know, I just touch this paint on there, and then I can use the tip to sort of just make small little movements, and then that will give me that little bit of finessed look to it. And don't forget the green over here. So you still see the reddish color, you still see the green color. And just gonna touch this guy over here. Okay. Then I'm going to go back underneath that, and I have some more of this pinky peachy. And as you go forward, you can adjust this peach just a little bit. Like if it's got a little more red in it, it'll play like it's coming. No, I'm saying that wrong. If it has a little more yellow in it, it'll move it towards you. So I don't know. Let's just try that for the fun of it. I'm going to just adjust this a little bit, just so that these grasses they would be the same grass if you were walking up to it. But if you're standing there looking at it, you're going to end up, from a distance, it's going to look more realistic if you add in the yellow as you come towards you, just slightly. And let's do a little more of that. I don't think that worked too bad at all. So bringing it forward, you could see it's all in the same family. It basically, you know, the eye will pick it up as being the same kind of foliage. And still looks, you know, sort of pinky, but it's going to move you forward a little bit. Okay, and then somewhat in here between our bushes, or whatever they are, and you can just tap a little bit on the top of the bushes so that it, you know, I don't want it to be globbier in the distance. I want it to, you know, the globby part can be in the foreground but not in the distance. So, you know, I just am trying to give it that continuity that I'm always talking about. Okay, we'll do more. Okay. Alright, maybe a little you for fun. Okay, now we are all the way back over here. Now, one thing I never showed you, but I take a little one of these, and I stick it on the top of my painting so that I can see if it's, you know, if it's level. It's a little level. And then that way, when I'm painting these grasses across, chances are fair I'm going to keep them lined up on that line a little better. This back line here is the most important one, because again, if you measure this out, it should be pretty close, and that way it won't look like your painting is it'll look more like your painting is actually level when it's on the wall. And this is something we really want to do. So okay, I'm going to kind of bring this down a little bit just to make a new base for some other colors, but here is, I want to make sure I'm one of those people that didn't have a fantastic memory. I can even add in a little of this guy, because pretty soon here we're going to be, this seems more like a base of color, but it's funny because it looks like that color. When in my mind's eye, as I'm thinking of this piece and I'm not looking at it, I think, oh, it's got that goldeny color. Okay, but then when you start painting it, you realize that a lot of that is, you know, kind of optical illusion in a way. It's the colors mixing together that give it that optical illusion, and it's weird. I mean, you just think, how can my mind be so, you know, think of it so different? In fact, I kind of don't know about everybody else, but I kind of think of some of this as, you know, this particular set of colors as being golden and blue. Well, if you start painting it, there's all sorts of colors in here. But there is this kind of goldeny color, and I'm going to just lay it in, and then I'm going to bring some of the other colors to it, like over it. And this is going to start making it look like the field is coming to you finally. It's finally coming up closer. And I've got a little bit going on here. Now you see I'm using the same exact color, but it looks way different when it's up against this darkish greens. I'm going to put a little in there just to get it moister, and then I'm going to some of this field comes down at an angle, so I'm going to honor that, if you will, and start bringing in some of that shape. Now, what's happening here is that this tool is going over the last bumps and things that were left from the first layer, which is good. Yeah, that's all very good. Okay, so next thing I want to do is I need to kind of come back in, and I can put in some of these greens in here. Okay, so this is interesting, right? You have this bluish green and this brighter green, and this looks like it's more in the shadows. Could be a different bush. I can put in some of this bluer, it's just a bluer green. Beautiful, they're beautiful colors. But I can just, if I need to, tap this down just a little bit, just to give them the look that they're in the distance, I can do that. So now I have both the greens in there, so it has an interplay. We like that. That's going to be good. Let's stick that up here. Okay, so these two colors are kind of friendly right now with these fields, and I'm working on fields over back here, which are kind of a little more grayish green. And I am bringing my paint all the way to, way to the edges, if I can at this point. Now, of course, I say this one bright line doesn't have to go to the edges, but that's because it's sort of a main line. How can I say it? All right, I'm going to stick a little darker dark, because I got little shadows going on here. Because it is such a vital line, it doesn't have to go all the way to the end, because people are going to end up looking there. Okay. And so you don't want, that is such a pivotal line, you don't want it to go all the way out. Okay, so these guys are good, friendly colors. Now I can go way down into my my other painting with these colors over the top, and because it's dark underneath here, and it has little ridges on it, it'll pick up just this, the tops that we're doing right now. And you can see you can use the paint pretty fast because they're not putting a lot of paint out, and part of that is great because then you're not using a lot of paint either. There's hardly any wasted paint with these sticks if you're using them kind of the way that I'm talking to you to use them. Okay, so I got to be really careful with the colors. Okay, I'm going to stick a little bit of this right up in here just to give it that continuity. I'm bringing it back and forth a little bit, so just a little bit of that color going up, and it's going to make the rest of this look more realistic. And I know I repeat myself a lot, but when you're not listening, I'm still saying it to myself. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I have like actually sort of like a purplish color, but it's green, so I'm going to take this green and I'm going to take this darker purple and mix it together. So it's actually a really dark purple green, but I want to make sure that I get in. Okay, so I have a bush over here, and I have a little bush over here, and then I have some darkers in here. Oh, that's good. That'll work. I have a little bit of shadows in the bottom of these greens over here, and up in here. Oops, a lot there. So, you know, it's not too bad of an idea probably to start reinforcing some of these darker spots. Now, one of the things you can know is that if you get up close here, this is a bush up here, it's real close. So you can, at some point you're going to be changing your stroke a little bit. I'm going to make some more of that dark purple. Now, you know, one of the nice things about the purple and the green is that it has all the colors in it. So it makes a nice dark color. And what I mean by that is purple is, you know, magenta and cyan, and then cyan and yellow is the green. So it makes up all the colors. Okay, so we're going to carve this in. We're just going to kind of go like this just to get a sense of where these bushes are going to be. Whether you go up and down or whether you come down, you know, that's just kind of your style where you're at. I need a little more purple, I think. And there's a little bush right in here too. And it kind of has, kind of comes down over here. And more. It sort of walks its way into this diagonal here. So I want to honor that. And then it kind of comes along here. So now it there's a little bit in the corner. And a little around here. Now by doing this, I feel like I end up keeping my shapes a little bit, because it's easy for me at this point to just, if I get too crazy, who knows how it'll end up. So I have to kind of mark the spaces out, and hopefully it's pretty close. And I'm going to walk my way up here, so I kind of come down here. I can come up a little bit, and then I want to go across like this, and it comes back down, all these shadows between these rows of brush here, it all comes back. Okay, let's see. Now this up here has probably more purple. So like the green has the yellow in it, so the purple, the farther away you go, if you're using purple and green, the purple is going to, make that look a little farther away because it's got the red in it. And yellow from the green dissipates before red from the purple. So it's a slight difference, but it's an important difference. So right down here, okay, you got a bush here, and you've got, well, right here you got a bush. So let's carve him out. Give him a spot to breathe a little. And a little bit of stuff in here so it makes its mark all the way. Okay. All right, now we're gonna okay. So the front of this guy here, let's just carve him out. In this green here, and it comes right across. This has a little glob on it. Take that off. Okay, now I put my name up in here. There's nothing really sacred about it. I'll just see if we can keep that, and if we can't, we'll just repaint over it. Okay. Do something there. And move this. And it comes up in here. It's kind of got a little one here and a little one here as far as bushes. I'm going to just move that a little bit. And you gotta remember, this is all gonna be like grasses and all that good stuff. So if you kind of you can, you know, put a larger swath going this way, but if you just kind of bring it up, you're going to bring in some direction that would look like foliage. Okay, get more in here. You see, I don't even have to have it super mixed. It doesn't have to be one color. It's just like a little purple or a little greener. It goes in there. It looks real natural as shadows, I think. And kind of go around the edge of this canvas. And up you go. And let's see here. Here, this grass can come down here a little bit. Okay. And there kind of goes the name. Okay. Now let's I'm going to make a little bit of a. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to take a little bit of this bluish color and stick that in with this darker green. I'm going to add the purple and this kind of teal color and this darker green, and I'm going to let's see if I can. This is going to be like there's just probably needs a little more, maybe more of this. To build in some of the greens that are going into these bushes, weeds, whatever they are, there's this sort of bluish kind of green. This guy is up here is a little too dark, maybe a lot too dark. So I'm just going to adjust him as I go. If I see it, I got to do it because I won't remember to do it later maybe. Okay, so I'm going back to this guy. I want to have a little more green in here. And I'm going to set up, these are kind of, I don't know, there's multiple colors of green in each of these grasses probably. But if I put a little bit of that bluish green in there, it'll look more like it's just kind of in a shadowy area. I have them in a bunch of places, so let's see if I can put them in here. Slippery. And I have some greens that come up here. And into this darkness. Now, these greens are actually, you know, all these colors mixed, they really make colors, I think, that work with, you know, because there's so many colors, it's, well, I was going to say, it sort of like makes it so that you could live with it in a room. You know, like people talk about the decor, this back to that, talking about whether the painting should fit with decor. By doing it this way, it makes a beautiful painting, and also it neutralizes some of these colors enough so that it'll fit with a lot of different kinds of different colors of decor, and so it looks good, and it goes with. So I'm not sure it could be better than that, right? Okay, so I'm gonna right. Now I'm doing sort of a tradition that, you know, what I think of as somewhat traditional way of proceeding by putting in darkers, and then the lighters can come on the top. I don't always follow the rules, but in that case, in this situation, that's what I'm starting to do, the shadow part first, and then we top it off. So we're putting the cake, the frosting on the cake, but we're going to come back with the little decorations after. So I'm just going to try to make some of this grassy part that you see. They don't have to be like, well, they can be anything. Let's say that you're a person who really likes detail. You can make them real detailed too. And when you make them real detailed, then the grasses here, you know, you're going to probably do maybe a couple layers. I don't know for sure. Or you can just give it the essence and the look of whatever it is that these grasses are going to look like. So the focus of my painting is really more in here, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting tons and tons of detail because down here, because then it takes away from where I really want the viewer to look. I'll go ahead and add a little to our dark here, just to, and these little greener parts can go over the top of the darker one that we've already put on there. We can add a little down here. And there's some stuff coming up here. Okay, I've got like a green thing coming across here. So I want to kind of pay some attention to that. Might as well. And a little green up in here. And then there's some green up in, there's a, now I'm going to have to be a little careful, I think, to make sure that I think it's easy, you could pull some paint off if you're not too careful. Okay, and just stick this a little bit up in here, and try to get a little natural feel of that. And then down in this little, well, it's probably the bigger bush here. It let's see, what is it doing? So you got this little guy here, and he has a little yellow friend over here. Then he comes up, and then this guy is kind of over here. And let's see if we can. Okay, so it actually kind of comes way over. And he's going to go way up into here. I'll scan on there. We're going to put in some of that cool bluish color. Okie dokie. And then down in here. And I'll put some of these greens up in here. Okay, a little bit of dark still in here, and here, and here. Okay, so I think that's going along pretty good. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is I'm going to take and rearrange some of these colors I've been using. I do not want to lose them, but at the same time I'm going to start switching over to some of these other colors. So I'm going to turn the camera off for right now and do that. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take and start focusing in on some of this rusty color in here. It's a little darker than this light parts up here. See if I can't get a good match. Let's put a little purple in there, why not? And maybe something with a little light. Oh, how about, well, I don't know, a little lighter purple maybe. Okay, so I have this light purple. Okay. So we're going to take, now what I'm looking at is right around all of these greens over here. So here's one. Okay, I have a bush here and a little here. I have a little bit of stuff coming up here. And it kind of goes this way. And, this isn't the highlight color, it's just the other colors that set that highlight cover up. So, for example, I have, it'll be like a gold on the top, but I'm setting this guy up down here. And a little bit down into this bush here. In fact, I think I'll add a little bit of, this is cad maroon. Cad maroon is like a favorite of mine, and it's darker, and so it sets that kind of a shadowy spot. I'll just use a little bit right down here. And I'm going to just put it into some of these greens. A little down at the bottom. And some up in here. No, I could probably lighten that up a little. I guess I like that cad maroon color so much that I might pick it just because I like it, and if I'm not somewhat careful, I probably, I don't know, end up with the colors not being quite what they should be. And stick it all in here. And this color is like in bits and pieces all over the place, so if you just put some in, it'll work good. And over here, I kind of bounce around sometimes, you might have noticed. And it kind of drops right down into a sort of a shadowy area. And kind of comes down in here. And there's some way up in here, way up around these green parts up here. So the good news is we're not completely finished with everything, so we are good to add whatever we want to add. We're like in charge. Okay. And some even comes up in here a little bit. We'll add a little purple to it. And maybe a little. Kind of neat. So I just putting a little purple over top of it. And I'm kind of going well, I was going to say I'm kind of going by the seat of my pants a little bit, but I do have this picture, so I'm trying to be somewhat true to it. But as far as doing these colors, one of the cool things is that you're able to, you know, put in a mixed color and then it has sparkles of the colors that are mixed, because I'm not mixing them nearly so much over here as I am up in here. And that's kind of neat. So in some ways it keeps to the flavor of what we started out doing. This purple is nice. Real nice. And so what it's going to do over here is it's going to calm all this high colors down a little bit. Maybe you hear some little groaning. That's my dog Waldo. He makes a lot of noise, that dog. Okay, so this is a pretty fun color, the cad maroon and this light purple. It makes kind of a muted little color, and who would have thought that? I don't know. And we'll come back in. So I got a little too much purple. I come back in with my cad maroon. You can literally probably do one color at a time if you wanted to do that with this same process. But I like to put them, you know, I like to add more than one color if I can here and there, because I don't know if it just lets it, well, the colors end up blending together and in a different sort of way, and I don't know. I guess I kind of just like that. So I'm going to put in a little colors in here just to make sure I don't leave it all on the table there. Okay, and this guy is really almost too red, and this is almost a pink up here. So I'm gonna toss a little bit of this in here just to calm it down. That's that purple. And okay, I got a little bit of this peachy and pinky, and let's see what I can do. Kind of nice. Okay, so Now, I'm a person who really likes the peach colors. And I think it's just because, well, this field is actually filled out behind my house. And so when the sun goes down at a certain, well, I shouldn't say the sun. I always think, okay, well, we turn away from the sun, right? When it's a sunset, we are going to end up, this grass is, most of the year, is not green at all. It's like an off-white color. And so it picks up the, it picks up the, I don't know, the golden hour colors, and it shoots it across. Now in this case, this picture was taken at dawn, and so it does the same thing from the other direction. Which I think is pretty neat. So the golden colors then that you paint on here, when it comes up through the window, it makes the painting glow up. I talk about this all the time, so you may have heard it before, but so if you put in the peachy colors, it will have something to grab onto when that light comes in like that. Now I can add that peach all the way. It's kind of a good mainstay color. I'm going to just add it back up in here, here and there, just to give it that continuity. And that, not every color that you pick up are you going to want to do that, but it really makes it have a, I don't know, a little glow fest. We like glow fests. And don't forget over here. It's not so much as you would necessarily, you know, it's not such a powerful color, you know, combination that you're going to go, ugh. It's just gonna fit really nice with those greens and the other yellowy colors in there. Okay. Now I'm gonna keep going with that because I think it's gonna work good. Okay. So the peachy colors would be kind of in the middle ground. I think that when you come forward even more, you're going to probably add in some of the oranges. And, you know, if I leave a little bit of, like I just dragged my knife down so hard that it blended it too much, so I don't want that. It's just kind of a finesse right there. Okay, and this guy's a little too. Alright. I'm going to, I think I'm going to take a little of this peach color. I don't know. Try to hit the highlights here. So I got a peach color here. Maybe that will work on its own. Yeah. So it's a little lighter because it doesn't have that dark, it doesn't have this dark pink in it, so it's just its own pink. And I'm going to bring it down and towards the front. And I'm going to hit a few spots in here just to keep that color going. Let's see. Still with the peach. I'm trying to get some of these little diagonal notes down in here. Now I didn't go to the orange right away. You know, I fight myself a little bit on some of it because I might have mentioned before, I have it in my head that it's really goldeny, and sometimes I'm just off on that. So I'm gonna throw some of this in here. Okay, now let's see. I have all that. Now let's see what color this is really. Okay, I have this color I haven't used yet, but it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit bright, so I'm going to dull it down with this guy over here, and maybe throw in this one too. Okay, so let's see how that works. Okay, and that's pretty goldeny. So I'm saving this brighter color for the front, and some of these grasses go up into there, way up, because it's that much closer. So all my goldens, and then I'm going to hit this and hit it. And I ended up with kind of a glob there. I don't need that glob on there really. And then where my peaches are, I'm going to kind of mix it in there with some of that. So and try to get a little okay. I want it to look a little grassy. I want it to look a little bit wild too, so I'll stick a little bit of this peach back on top. And then this back here. So I'm probably ahead of myself just a little bit. What I want to do here is I want to make sure that I get some the back colors kind of working. So I'm going to just go with the flow a little bit. And I'm going to add in some of this pink back here. So I have a little bit of this orange. But I'm putting in the pink color so that it will, I don't know, so they'll all be friends. Can I say that? So, by adding the pink in, it makes that color look kind of pushed back, so that's not a bad thing. And I have a bush that's going to have to go in here somewhere too, so I have to figure that out. Now this orangey part comes forward because it's got a little more yellow in the color than distant, like the peach color would go back farther in your, your optical illusion than the orangey color, because it's actually a little more reddish. Okay, so let me hit this guy down here. I don't want to. And here's my little bright spot here. Now this color back here, the shape of it stays a little higher up, but there are still little blips of color in there, but it's not this color yet. But way up in here, you can start making that transition. And then it comes down way down into here. And the peachy comes up into this cloud. There's going to be a bush there. Not a cloud. And I'm gonna reinforce this guy. And across here. Now this one needs a little more gold. Golden. Okay, how about a little of that? Make this guy up here, dull this guy down a little bit. And hit that. Okay. I have some reds to put in here. And hit it here. And down. Okay, so some of this now I can probably put a little lighter orange in there. Let's just see what we've got. Okay, so that's going to play really good. Now I have this darker, middle, lighter. I'm going to hit it here and there. Okay, more of that. That's nice. So I got globby. We don't want globby. Now let's take a little down in here. And And just putting a little, it's just the same process again and again. It's just a matter of where is that color going to go. It was probably a little too, let's throw a little of this in there. Calm that down. It's kind of a cool process because it just it's just like kind of abstracty. It's really pretty though. You know, like the colors that go together, they're just really pretty. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to hit some of this right in here. And I'm going to keep going across. There's quite a bit of it down there. It's just like kind of out of my line of sight a little. A little bit in here. Okay. Some of that is okay, and a little bit down in here. One thing a person can do is just move a little bit off to the side or something. I'm going to go back with this darker red and really make sure that's kind of where it needs to be. And I'll get some into that far corner because why not? And a little bit up in here. Okie dokie. Maybe this corner here. You wouldn't want to have to redo everything, you know, again tomorrow if you didn't have to. Alright, let's go back to our goldies. We're going to put a little of this light stuff in here. And we're going to hit this. How about this? Doing our pink gold. keep going. Now I'm gonna do more of this. I love this, and I'm gonna add some of this pink in here for the front. I don't really know if that'll work, but I'm making some real long ones in here. Okay. That's a pretty neat color there, and I'm gonna just stick it in these grasses. It's almost like the middle tone, where the dark is the shadow, and then the light is obviously at the top, the goldy. Okay, but this pinky gold, and it gives it a little bit of depth, a little bit, I don't know, flavor. Okay. See here. And bring it down in the front a little. Now when I get closer, I'm going to add a little more of the gold. Especially in these parts where I'm not putting real, I'm not putting the grasses in individually or anything. I'm just, at least not yet. The gold as I come forward will, from that pink, will look like it's closer to us because the yellow is strong and in that color. Okay, so I want to get enough in there so it makes sense what I'm doing in the front. I'm gonna just knock these down into here, and then I'm gonna come up with this guy up in here. Now these grasses can be kind of tall here and there. These little swipes are just like illusions of grasses. And that's what we're looking for, illusion. That's all we're ever doing is illusion. Okay, and then keep going, keep going. Add some in here. littler ones kind of going up in here. Kind of make, yeah, I don't want to get too much light in the corner because I'm still looking for a vignette there, but a little bit is good. And then I'm gonna add a few across here, sticking with my gold here. You can't have it be too sparse because it just looks like a mistake. So you want to get that in there. Most of this right now is just sort of finessing it to being what it needs to be. Now, so this guy up here, if you're going over here, it doesn't need to be individual, grasses, but way up in here, yeah, some. So I'm going to put a few up in here. Now, sometimes this knife isn't the easiest to maneuver, so yeah, you do the best you can. And there's going to be some up down in here, and it goes a little bit like this across. And the next thing you want to do is you want to start getting some okay, let's see what I have here. Get some of these greens in here too, if you can figure out the right color to put in there. Because there's going to be some of the grass is green, I guess. So you're picking your colors. There are going to be a slight variety of colors, but they're going to fit right into this green we put in there earlier. And just a little bit down in here. Just a hint of it. Kind of like you did a hint over here. Do a hint over here. And that's my dog snoring. That was a little soul. And we're going to put in a little of this green. That's it. So here's what happens is that if it's been sitting there for a while, it starts to cure. so it gets a little glumpy. Okay, that will work. And I'm going to just put a little in here and there. A nice kind of green. Okay, so here's where one of our bushes is going to be up in here, and he goes across over and meets up with this little red one, and I'm just going to put the I don't know, stalks have a bunch of little I don't know. I don't know foliage as far as what to call it stuff, but the stalks have a little bit of depth to them, or they're a little width to them. So I'm going to go up here too. And so you can fill this green in a little bit. Instead of being fine stalks, they have little wispy they're not really leaves, right? I don't know what they are. So they do take up a little bit of space. And then up in here, go again. And I see that they're up in here. And I also see it's up in here. So I can get my bigger bush started to go. Weed, whatever. And I actually can go over a ways. And I can get it, it's got to be tall enough. And there's a little bit going on and up in this part here. So I'm just going to use that same little green a little bit. And keep everything friendly. And kind of comes down this way. And it kind of comes down into here. Now, it also kind of comes up this way and slides down the side this way. So it has an angle to it. And we're going to let me come up this way. So this one comes down. Now you have a funny little, has to come across because otherwise this one will take over the one in the back. There's one in the back and one in the front, and then a little bit in the front. So we're gonna make sure we have I am going to use this kind of funny little green here to maybe I'll just cut off a piece of it. Okay. And smash it a little. Now it has a little crust on there, some parts, but let's see if I can't good. Okay. If I got some goofy stuff there, I'll just take it out as much as I can see it. And I'm just gonna rub this around a lot, and that will, this is going to take some of this green and let me shape it without losing too much. It acts as like a shadow effect, and I'm gonna go like this. And I'm going to do something similar down in here. Now I have makes grass. It's just okay. I'm gonna come back up with okay, how do we do that now? I'm gonna take my purple and my green and come back in. Come up. Okay. So I want my purple and my green again. We started with this, and we're just going to reinforce some of this. So it looks like it's real good foliage. Now I'm not going to worry too much about my yellows in there quite right now. I'm going to come back and hit those top ones, but I want the foliage to be kind of right, and I want it to be in the right spots, and the rest of that's icing on the cake. So like down in here, I am kind of lost some of my darks, and that looks good. Come up here, hit this guy, so I get a little separation, and from my farther back bush and my closer bush, definitely need a little separation. And and don't forget in here. And down in here. here. And don't forget. So I'm kind of going across to see if I can, make sure that all my spots are pretty good from the background colors that I'm going to need, the shadowy colors. And you start out and then you have to keep on adjusting it until it's correct as you can want it to be. This little green up in here could go good. And even up in here, in that bluish green color that, and up in here, don't forget it. Okay, you can tell I talk to myself a lot. And let's hit this guy again. So, the dark purple and the dark green. Get in some, even if it's not fully covered, from the first coat. See, I have I have a oops, I didn't need that. Okay. All right. And this kind of takes a little patience. Probably takes more patience to watch it than doing it. Maybe get a little more of this purple in here. one of the things you're watching for here is you want to make sure that there's not too many lines going in the wrong direction, or it has to be very natural looking. And now, one of the things I notice over here is that I need to bring some of this green over to, so which one should I pick? Let's see. I'm going to take this guy because I brought him over on a bunch of spots. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. And keep my greens coming through. If you forget a major color, you're going to have a little trouble. Okay, so this guy up here, there's like a bush up here. I'm going to put in a little jazz up here. So he's got, I'll stick the green. So you kind of have a bush here, which is going to be easier to see when it gets done. And a bush here and a bush here. And this green, you know, there's not a lot of moisture in this part of the country. It's more like a high plains desert, so somehow these weeds, they have a life of their own anyway. Okay, I'm gonna bring that down. Bring some in here. Bring a little in here. They're like we get a lot of wind. Let's just say we get a lot of wind, so all of these weeds have, you know, they grow everywhere because of that wind. They pollinate everything. So a lot of these don't need a lot of water. Put in a little green down here too, because for one thing it needs it. Now I'm going to take some of this darker green just to keep with that bottom part. And I like that color a lot, so this side over here. This little guy right here is... You want all these parts to be friendly with each other, but some of them don't need to be that friendly. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of this color and just pop in here a little bit. Got too monotone in my opinion, so I'm going to go back and just pop it in and pop it in and okay. Now what do I need here? A little bit in here. I'm using a little bit of artistic license to do this, just because, you know, I want it to feel real natural. So, of course, I do something artificial. No, I just want it to be kind of balanced out. Okay, now I just have to wipe my hand off here, and the next step is kind of get messy. Let's see here. The next step is to come in and get these bushes, the little yellow parts of these bushes, and then I'll be looking at it closely on the sides to see if there's any major globs or something. You don't need to have all the globs to make an impact. It can be globby. It's a little globby. I think I just leave a lot of it, but just to double check it. So let's look at the picture. It's got a little bit of yellows up in here. So they're yellow. Let's try to take a lot of this yellow. Well, there might be a little of this yellow too. And maybe this. Okay, let's see what we have. Yellow, yellow, golden yellow. More yellow. We got a light yellow over here. It needs to be a little more goldy. It looks kind of light yellow, but a little more goldy doesn't hurt. Let's put a little of this goldy in here too. Maybe a little green. Okay. Let's just try that. So I'm going to come over here, maybe, and just tap it. There's little guys out here. Just tapping it here and there. They don't need to all be big. They can be different sizes. If it gets a little too big, I just pull a little off. And I'm putting in a little bit with the golden too at the bottom. You know, it shouldn't all necessarily, they don't all look exactly the same color. There's a little variation, but if you just put in some, now there's a little spot out here and down in here. And there's a couple that kind of go in a pattern here. You kind of look for the natural patterns, that'll be helpful. And a bunch down towards the bottom. We're going to darken this up a little. And there are a few outliers out here. I'm going to come in here with a little of this gold. Now this gold's kind of cured up just a little bit, so I'm going to come back in and hit right down in here. There's even some little Goldilocks in here. Okay, wipe that off, go back to these yellows, and they kind of creep over to here too. And up in here. Okay, now sometimes you have the same exact okay, and they're also up in here, but they don't have the same level of detail. So I'm just going to pop in a little of that color and try not to get too, I don't want it to get too bright because it'll take away from the forward one. And sometimes when you put the same it's the same bush or weed or whatever it is. So, but the color looks different when it's next to something that is next to a different color. Like this is all in the greens, and this is up into the peaches, and you know, if you need to adjust it so that it looks correct, then that's a good time to do that. And down in here a little bit. And up in here. Now I'm looking at this as sort of a general shape. especially this guy. So they kind of just come down here and there, and that's how I'm going to build it. And then they come up. And there's a little bit up in here. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that yellow is also over here and there. You know, there's little pieces of it, little beginner bushes kind of in these places. So if I put that in there, it'll look better. I think I say that all the time. And add a little bit in here so it has a good feel to it. And a couple are down even in here. They don't have to be as bold, because now you're at that point where you're kind of just trying to make design. And let's see here. Now this guy, I'm going to go ahead and make it look like this is all in here. There's some other kind of plants that are in here that kind of show up, but I think it's fine to just kind of let these take the lead. And maybe up in here a little bit. Okay. Now, don't forget over here, there's a little bit over here, and down in here, and a little over here. Just to okay, keep that going, and a little bit in here. Okay, and something up in here. All right, now what's the other thing? Okay, the other thing is this bright green up in here. You can put a few, I think you could put a few of these if you can get it to work. Just bright spots of green that acts as the rest of the branch. It has some of that. In fact, I'm gonna mix these two together so that it's not so glaring and obnoxious. So you can just bring them up. Going to just, okay, that was globby. Okay. Let's take a little. Okay, I am definitely going to have to adjust this back. It got out of control. Alright. Now, this green doesn't have to be all the way down into the whole plant, because it's the dark or the bright green, because it's just where the light is. So sometimes I get a little carried away because it's fun. And I'm going to come back with this Goldilocks. Come back over it. Sure I am. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to come back with my bright green. I want to get a little bit of action going up in here. Think about the light. And a little bit of this. Little bit. Sometimes a little bit goes a longer way than a lot bit. And, too much. And I got globby, too thick. And hit it here and there. And a little down in here. And a little bit for these guys. Why not? And some down in here. Okay, so I'm going to see here if I have to. I think I just hit a few oranges in here. Just in some of these, you know, it's kind of hard to know when to quit and let it just be. So I'm just going to do this one color just to you know, funny thing about this is it just sort of made me think of an orange piece. It's orange and yet there's almost no orange in it. So I'm just going to add a little orange to it because that is something I want to do. And I'm going to just stick a little bit up in here just to give it a sense, not overwhelming, not glob, not like gaudy or anything. We don't want that. But wherever there's a little bit of light and this, I can see putting that in there. So that's what I'm going to do. And down in the front here. And don't forget this little guy here. Now, one thing I gotta remember to do is put my signature back in while it's still kind of wet. Okay, so I've got missing. Okay. I need to make sure I don't leave any of these areas short if I can help it. And I have some of this over here. I'm just going to add in a little bit over here. Just the tall ones. A little bit down in here where it's just so dark. Okay, so that's the other thing. I got to remember to make my signature. Did I just say that? I think so. So I'm going to put it in this dark spot here. And then the question is now, what color do you want to put in there? And I can put in this bright green like I had, which might not be the worst idea. So let me think here. I think I will. My hands get so dirty. Alright, now I'm going to take this go back to brighty green and this green and see if they'll mix very well together. And just put it up in here. I'll just go brighty green. Add a little solvent in there. Okay. Maybe a little of this yellow in there. Signatures always take me a little longer than you would think. Okay. Well, I'm going to take a little of this dark purpley mix and just tap it to make that signature a little bit less in your face. And tomorrow we do the sky. And I think before I walk away completely from it, I'm going to bring this back into the living room, which is, let's see, I got a little red in here. So if I put a couple colors back there, it actually looks like it's all part of the picture. So I'll look at it and make sure that I don't need to tap something in so it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb.